really trying to ಸಂಸದ್ ಧ್ವನಿ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ವೇದಿಕೆ ಮೇಲೆ ಉಪಸ್ಥಿತಿರುವಂತ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ದಕ್ಷಿಣದ ಯುವ ಸಂಸತ್ ಸದಸ್ಯರು ಪ್ರಚಂಡ ಬಹುಮತದಿಂದ ನಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರ ಬೆಂಬಲದಿಂದ ಇತ್ತೀಚಿನ ಚುನಾವಣೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಧ್ವನಿಯನ್ನ ಸಂಸತ್ತಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರತಿನಿಧಿಸುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಹೊಣೆಗಾರಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಹೊಂದಿರುವಂತ ತೇಜಸ್ವಿ ಸೂರ್ಯ ಅವರೇ, ಆರಂಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರ ಈ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನಕ್ಕೆ, ಈ ಒಂದು ವಿಶೇಷವಾದಂತ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನಕ್ಕೆ ಅಭಿನಂದನೆಯನ್ನ ಮತ್ತು ಶುಭಾಶಯಗಳನ್ನ ಕೋರ್ತಾ, ವೇದಿಕೆ ಮೇಲೆ ಹಾಸಿರುವಂತ ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರಾದ ಮೋಹನ್ ದಾಸ್ ಪೈ ಅವರೇ, ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ರೂಪಾದಿ ವಾಸುದೇವನ್ ಅವರೇ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಬಂಧು ಭಗಿನಿಯರೇ, ನಾನು ಈ ವೇದಿಕೆ ಮೇಲೆ ಬರುವಾಗ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಗಾಳಿ ಕುರ್ಚಿ ಬರೋಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕಷ್ಟ ಇತ್ತು. ನೀವು ನೋಡಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಆವಾಗ ನಾನು ಕೆಳಗಡೆಯಿಂದ 4 ಜನ ಎತ್ತಿದ್ರು, ಎತ್ತಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂರಿಸಿದ್ರು. ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ ಕೂಡ ಹಾಗೆ ಇದೆ. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂಡ ಸೇರಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಮೇಲಕ್ಕೆ ತಗೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿರುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಅನಿವಾರ್ಯತೆ, ಸನ್ನಿವೇಶ ಇವತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿದೆ. ಬಂಧುಗಳೇ, ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಕಸ್ತೂರಿ ರಂಗನ್ ಅವರ ನೇತೃತ್ವದಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಸಮಿತಿ ಜೂನ್ 2017ರಲ್ಲಿ ಆರಂಭ ಆಯಿತು, ರಚನೆ ಆಯಿತು. ಈ 2 ವರ್ಷಗಳ ಅವಧಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹಲವಾರು ಪ್ರಯತ್ನಗಳನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿ ಇವತ್ತು ಈ ನೀವು ಅಂತಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಏನು ಇವರು ಮಾತಾಡೋದ್ ಮುಂಚೆನೆ ಕೆಮ್ಮು ಬಂತು ಅಂತ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಂತ, ಈ ಕ್ಯುಮುಲೇಟಿವ್ ಕೆಮ್ಮು. ಅವರ ಅಧ್ಯಕ್ಷತೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸಮಿತಿ ರಚನೆಯಾಗಿ ಮೊನ್ನೆ ಮೇ 31ನೇ ತಾರೀಕು ನರೇಂದ್ರ ಮೋದಿ ಅವರ ಪ್ರಮಾಣ ವಚನದ ನಂತರ ಹೊಸದಾಗಿ ಮಾನವ ಸಂಪನ್ಮೂಲ ಇಲಾಖೆಯ ಸಚಿವರಾದಂಥ ರಮೇಶ್ ಪೋಖ್ರಿಯಾಲ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಇದನ್ನು 31ನೇ ತಾರೀಕು ಅರ್ಪಣೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. 1 ಗಂಟೆಯ ಒಳಗಾಗಿ ಮಾನವ ಸಂಪನ್ಮೂಲ ಅಭಿವೃದ್ಧಿ ಇಲಾಖೆಯವರು ಅದರ ವೆಬ್ಸೈಟಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರು. 1 ತಿಂಗಳ ಕಾಲ ಹಿಂದಿ ಮತ್ತು ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಜೂನ್ 30ರವರೆಗೂ ಇದರ ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯಗಳನ್ನ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇದರ ಮಧ್ಯೆ ಸಂಸತ್ತಿನ ಅಧಿವೇಶನ ಕೂಡ ಆರಂಭ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಈ 2ನ ಅವಧಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ರೀತಿಯ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಯತ್ನವನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿರುವಂಥದ್ದು ಬಹಳ ಸಂತೋಷ, ಶುಭ ಕೂಡ. Let me now try to focus on few very important features of the policy. In fact, I am very happy that Mr. Mohandas Pai is also present. He was the one of the 7 eminent people who peer-reviewed this policy before it was finalized. I thank you. Let me only tell a couple of points before I get to the specific point. One is the education system that we have today, school, higher, everything. It is 170-year-old. It's a colonial heritage. It is not colonial, it is a colonial heritage. During British time, when they wanted to undo the Bharatiya, when they wanted to remove this, the entire spirit of India, they brought in this formal system. Therefore, the kind of education system that we have today is not only colonial but also post-colonial. And it is full of intersection, divisions, isolations, and also completely controlled from above. There is completely rigidity, there is no freedom, there is no flexibility, and this is the kind of system that we have. In fact, yesterday's Hindu carries an interview with 2 eminent people, and somebody has said this 10th standard examination, which is now existing today, is 150-year-old. And that was actually done to select clerks for the British government. So that is the one very important point that we need to know. So what we try to do in this policy under the chairmanship of Dr. Kasturi Rangan is to demolish that colonial culture, that colonial heritage. And we are actually trying to bring out what is real Indian and what is Bharatiya. That spirit we are trying to bring it. You may ask me a question. Sir, if you look the entire document, if you find that in the document, find colonial, how many times we have used? We have not used the word. And you may also ask a question, how many times we have used Bharatiya? You may not. Using the word, using the language is not the important thing. What is the essence of that, what is the spirit of that is very, very important. The second point I would like to place before you is, education has to be looked in a totalistic spirit, integrated way, holistic way, not in a piecemeal approach. From preschool education to entire top research, from general education to professional education, all these things have to be looked in a total system, not in a piecemeal way. So the entire approach that we have come out is that entire package of transformation, not tweaking here or tickling here and there. So it is an entire thing. Therefore, my request to all of you is, please don't prejudge any particular point without that entire new architecture that we have advocated in this. So you cannot handpick a point and then try to analyze it in the present context. The present context is that my wheelchair at the down. And what we have envisaged is onto the stage. So if you take one piece and try to judge, how is it possible? It cannot be possible because you feel that it is not possible. That's primarily because you are handpicking a point of the policy and trying to judge from the contemporary context. So therefore, my request is please receive. I am not saying please accept. Please receive, understand, and whatever you feel, you please express your opinion independently and free. The first point, I would like to only touch some 7-8 points. Because of brevity of time, I will not get into detail. Maybe in the question answer or when we meet, we can always do that. The first thing that we have done is the entire school education from age of 3 up to the age of 18 is school education. It becomes 15 years. And that entire 15 years, because it used to start from standard 1. The child is 6-year-old. It used to start at 6, go up to 10th standard, and then +1, +2 used to be intermediate or PUC, which is neither school nor higher education. Now what we have done is, this entire 15 years starting from 3 years is called school education, and presently it is 10 plus 2 plus 3. 10 plus 2 was school education. What we have actually come out is 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. 5 years of foundation, first 3 years of preparatory, next 3 years of middle, and last 4 years of secondary. The entire new architecture is based on the entire research that has happened all over the world with regard to the brain development of the child. So the brain development, keeping that in view, how the brain develops, how the emotional angle develops of a child, the first 5 years, what needs to be given, how it is to be given, what kind of activity has to be there, and then first, third, 3 years, what kind of curriculum, what kind of pedagogy, like that. The very, very important thing that we have done is 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. And the preschool education from age 3 to 6, it was never under the purview of education. It was either under the purview of health or it was under the purview of women and child welfare. We have said all these from 3 years to 18 years must come under education, that is school education. The second point I would like to say with regard to school education, very important thing. The entire curriculum, there should not be any differentiation between curricular, co-curricular, extracurricular. Everything is curriculum. In fact, there was an artificial division. People used to think that curricular is more important than co-curricular and extracurricular is least important. That was never counted. In fact, once Nana Patekar in a film is a very good director, he wins an award and brings a very big cup to his father. And the father says, "Ye bekar hai," and he throws away that cup into the street. Then Nana Patekar says, "Have you ever asked Sachin Tendulkar with regard to what is the percentage of marks that somebody has got?" Nobody asked Sachin Tendulkar, what is your percentage? What is your grade? Did you get a rank or not? So this is the spirit that curricular, co-curricular, extracurricular, there should not be any differentiation. Another point, the entire vocational education and school education are not separate, they are all one and the same. They will have to come under the same stream. When you say school education, it includes vocational, and that is part and parcel of it. And when it comes to the question of curriculum content, we have said the children must be given choice, they must have that choice. And one more thing is the kind of curriculum that you must have apart from subjects. You must have digital literacy, you must have constitutional values, you must have ethical and value system, Indian knowledge system, current affairs. All that must be part of curriculum. Don't deprive anybody of any of these things. And when it comes to school education, only one reform I will say, and I will not get into details. Government schools, improving the lot of government schools is our first priority. And what is to be done? See, after Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, within 1 kilometer radius, there has to be primary school. So to a very great extent we have achieved, that is a very good achievement for our country. But at the same time, distribution and dissemination and dispersion of more number of small schools has become a challenge. So what we have recommended is, that was recommended by Kothari Commission, but we have done a little better on that. 25 to 30 government schools in a geographical locality have to be brought under a concept of school complex. School complex is not one place where all schools come. No. It is only an academic and administrative unit wherein there will be series of high school, secondary school, all that will come together and it will be headed by the headmaster of the secondary school, and that person will decide everything. All the resources will be shared and there will be a school atmosphere and all the schools will be provided with all facilities. You cannot provide a very good library to every school, but you can provide excellent library to 25 to 30 schools. You can provide excellent laboratory. You can provide excellent sports facilities. You can also share music teacher. You can share yoga teacher. You can share craft teacher. But you cannot appoint a yoga teacher, music teacher for every school. It is not possible, it is impossible. So a school complex has to come, and this is what some of the important things that we have said in school education. When it comes to higher education, what we have said is, this entire number of colleges and universities, they have to be consolidated to 15,000. Now we have around 41,000. All that have to be consolidated into around 15. And every university and college must be multidisciplinary. And the entire institution structure must have a three types of institutions. One type is research universities. Second type is teaching universities. Research universities, the focus will be on research. They will also be teaching. And they can be world class. You provide everything for them. Teaching university, their focus is on teaching. There will also be no doubt research. And all other things are only colleges. What kind of colleges? Autonomous as well as degree granting colleges. Every college will not be affiliated to any university. They will be autonomous, and not only autonomous, every college can award their own degree. So there are only three types: research university, teaching university, and autonomous degree granting colleges. All your entire business of central university, state university, private university, all that may be there. But we do not want to classify any institution based on ownership. Who is the owner? It's not the basis. If central government owns it, it is central university. If private people own it, it is private university. If you are not very clear, it is deemed to be university. Ownership should not be the basis. Your focus, your importance must be the focus. And then we are coming to undergraduate education. Out of 3 crore 60 lakh students enrolled for higher education, 75% are in BA, BSc, BCom. Do you know this? Huge number. Mr. Meena must be knowing. He was Principal Secretary to Higher Education. You know. But this entire education has to be restructured. There is no business like art, science, commerce. No 3 buckets. A student will have to drown himself or herself into one bucket. Or this bucket. Or this bucket. Nothing like that. Everything has to be done, and that is what we call as liberal arts science education. Liberal arts science education, and there is no distinction of any discipline, and the student will be awarded a Bachelor of Liberal Arts Science Studies, BLAS. And for doing that, you will have combinations, creative and imaginative combinations. Like, for example, it is for universities and colleges to develop their own combinations. The students will not select either arts, science, commerce or whatever discipline. They will only choose combinations. And when you choose combination, you will either have a major or minor. How many major, how many minor, you can always do. And it is for the institution and the student to pick and choose. And if the undergraduate education must be made 4 years instead of 3 years. Again, down with this suggestion. No, I am not hearing that. But please receive it. Receive it. The purpose is you have to add value to undergraduate education. An undergraduate degree, if somebody completes, more than 50 to 60% of the students who complete undergraduate degree, it must become a terminal course. There is no need for them to continue. Only if somebody wants to specialize, they will only continue. If a student completes first year, that student will be given a certificate. 2 years, a diploma. 3 years, a degree. Fourth year, it has to be very robust and very research focused. And if somebody completes 4th year, it is called honors. That means, primarily, you do not see a student, let me tell you, actually it is not, you feel so terribly bad that a student completes all the 3 years. That student has passed all the subjects except one subject in which the student has failed with 1 mark. You will get 0. Am I right? You are unfair. For the last 170 years, we were unfair. If somebody has done something, you must give credit to that student. And it is very flexible. If you have completed certificate, you can always discontinue and come back to diploma. If you have completed that, you can discontinue, come back. And that is the kind of structure that we are thinking. And then, with regard to regulatory bodies, you have 18 regulatory bodies, starting from UGC, AICTE, Medical Council and all that. And all these regulatory bodies are discipline based. If it is technical education, AICTE. If it is medical education, Medical Council. If it is nursing course, Nursing Council. If it is a dental course, Dental Council. If it is lawyer, Bar Council. What we are trying to say is there have to be 4 national bodies. One looks after the funding, the second looks after the standard setting, third looks after the accreditation, and fourth looks after the regulation. Only 4 bodies, and they will look after each function that has been given to them. They will not poke their nose into other things. But then what happens to the bodies? The present bodies that we have, they will only become standard setting bodies for their professions. Bar Council will be the standard setting body for lawyers. Medical Council will set standard for doctors. Nursing Council will set standard for nurses. NCT will set standard for teachers. They will not have, let them play a bigger role in setting standard for profession, and the education part of it will go to universities to take care of the entire research, to mentor and to facilitate the research at colleges and universities. And for doing all this, you require somebody who will own education of India. There is a need for custodian of vision of education in India, and that will be vested with a new commission called as Rashtriya Shiksha Ayog, National Education Commission, which will be headed by the Prime Minister, and the Minister HRD will be Vice Chairman. That Ayog, there will be central ministers, there will be chief ministers, all will be members. And apart from this, eminent experts from India and abroad will also be members of that commission. So it is actually a holistic thing. In fact, bureaucrats, PMO, all of them will be part of it. See, many a time people have said, why do you keep politicians? Why do you keep bureaucrats? We should not exclude anyone. It must be inclusive. Then only your vision will be better. So friends, I have placed some of the main features of the policy before you. Maybe when the discussion happens, we can take up. But only my one small request is, please receive them, think over, and you can always say. Let me not dominate. Thank you.
ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಇವಾಗ ಶ್ರೀಧರ್ ಅವರು ಈ ಪಾಲಿಸಿ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಾನು ಪಾಲಿಸಿ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಯಾಕೆ ಇದು ಒಂದು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಪಾಲಿಸಿ ಅಂತ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಮುಂದೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. Distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen, we have to ask fundamental questions as to why we need an education policy. What makes a society a great society? What makes a civilization a great civilization? What makes a civilization a sustainable civilization? The one thing that makes a civilization sustainable is its knowledge system. And those civilizations which have a deep root of knowledge and create knowledge are the ones that can sustain. And nobody can ever take away the knowledge systems that will be in the DNA of people. If you look around the world, there are only 3 distinct knowledge systems in the world. One is the Western system, starting with Greece, then the Romans, the Dark Ages came, and then they started again. Then is the Indian system, going back to antiquity, which have its own impact on what we did through our Vedas, our knowledge systems, our universities, etc. The other is the Chinese system. The Chinese system also is rooted in antiquity, and it's a very great civilization. Now the Western system dominated the world for some time because of the Industrial Revolution. It degenerated into the Dark Ages because the medieval church came and destroyed the spread of knowledge after Christianity took over the Greeks and destroyed the Greeks' knowledge system because they wanted to bring in dogma, and dogma controlled everything. And then the Islamic system flourished in the 12th, 13th century because Islam started to become the bridge between India and the West. In fact, many Islamic scholars translated the Indian works, took the Indian mathematical work, the Indian algebra work, the Indian notational system, and the Indian medicinal system, science system, wrote about it and acted as the bridge between the East and the West. And in the 13th century, when they started saying that everything is about science, technology, everything that has to be learned in the Quran and nothing more can be done, that led to the decline of the Islamic civilization. Now we have the Indian civilization, which flourished from a long period of time because the civilization was based upon the spirit of inquiry. The most fundamental question we asked ourselves is, what is the reason for our existence? What is the purpose of life? And that occupied everybody, and that was an unending question because nobody could come out with a great answer, and there were multiple streams of reason, and these multiple streams of reason led to the flowering of great thought, because we believe that everybody can think, can have their own views, and ultimately we come to one destination, whatever the destination is, and it flourished. So we have the fluorescence of all kinds of thought coming into this country. And with the Chinese, they developed their own system of knowledge, but the Chinese always said, because of the spread of Buddhism, they looked to the West for knowledge. And we were the West. The Chinese scholars came here. Because India had the most ancient, greatest universities ever. Takshila in the west of India, and Nalanda in the east, Vikramashila. There were some 13 or 14 university systems that existed. In Nalanda it was said that every young person came to Nalanda, they came to the university gate, and there was a Dwarapal. And the Dwarapal asked the young man or woman questions. And only when you answer the question were you let inside. So there's an entrance test. Everybody could not come in. There were some 10,000 students and 2,000 faculty members, and they had full autonomy. They had full autonomy. Nobody told them curriculum, this and all, because we follow the old Gurukula system, and the West, the Greeks followed the academy system. The Chinese had their own school. So this was what it was till the Industrial Revolution. It is important to understand how things develop. The Industrial Revolution created the next phase of education because in the Industrial Revolution, they were the machine age. The machines came into being. The machines provided standardization. The machine had large production runs. The machines make sure that quality standards could be maintained. But that to standardization, one way of thinking, dogma, and therefore you have the current education system, Education 2.0, where there's one professor, he has read all the books. So he comes and talks to all of you, you take down the notes, he gives a test, you pass the exam, you get a piece of paper, and you get a job. And why do you get a job? Because the industry is developing, and the jobs are plenty, and educated people are required. And knowledge was in the hands of a few people. In the earlier era too, it was in the hands of a few people, but here too, it is in the industrial era, it is in the hands of a few people, those who are read. That was the second phase, Education 2.0. Then the third phase of education is an education system where knowledge is freely available for everybody. The accumulated knowledge of humankind is available on the web. The greatest questions have been answered by the best professors. The greatest videos, the greatest formulae, everything is available. You can go to the web with a piece of, with just a cellular phone, a smartphone with a data plan, and you get everything. So you don't have to put everything into your hard disk and recall memory. Because all you have to learn is how to Google or how to ask the questions and people answer your questions. There's no need for everything to be inside because it's available. But what is important is to use all the data and the knowledge to solve problems. So you have to develop a problem-solving attitude because Education 3.0 is all about creativity, is all about problem solving, is all about a very competitive, globalized society. And that is what it is. And then, what makes a country powerful? Why is the United States the most powerful country in the world? The United States is the most powerful country in the world, not because President Trump has a big fat button which he can press to blow up the world, because even Putin can press that to blow up the world, and Kim can press that to blow up his own country. I don't know what else he can do. And of course, Imran Khan has got some button there which you don't know what it will do, and you don't know what it is. But America is the greatest country in the world because of its university system. There is innovation, there is research, the greatest scientists, the best minds of the world go there. India has sent 1,90,000 young people to America. 60% of them are doing graduate studies. 35 to 40% of computer science and STEM courses are by Indian students. So India has sent a lot of people, the brightest people want to go there because we have destroyed our higher education system as far as the master courses and the PhD courses are concerned in this country, because we are not fostered quality in the Nehruvian worldview, right? But the United States is the greatest country. So in this modern era, if you want to be a great society, if you want to be competitive, you have to build a world-class, highly competent, highly topical higher education system, and the education system starting from the school level. And that is why we need a policy which is a 21st century policy with a 21st century architecture to dominate the 21st century and become a great country. Today our GDP is $2.7 trillion. We are the 5th largest in the world. By 2030 our GDP will be $10 trillion. We will be the 3rd largest in the world. China number 1, America number 2, and India number 3. Could we overtake America? Maybe in the next 20-30 years. Can we overtake China? Maybe we can. But we will be among the 3 great economies in the world. Even in the today, in PPP, we are $10.3 trillion. China is about 25, the United States about $20 trillion. But in the PPP, nominal, we have to be there. So our economic growth is going to be there in the next 12 years to go up to a high level. So we have to create an education system and a university system to meet that. We cannot get technology from outside. We cannot be importers. We have to educate our people, and we have to do all this. And that is why a new education policy is required. Now, what kind of education policy do we need? All right. Now let us look at what we have. Today in school education, almost all children go to school. For the last 30 years, we have been producing 2.5 crore babies. Last 30 years every year, 2.5 crore babies. Sadly, in the whole of South India, our fertility has come to 1.8, below replacement. In Kerala, 9% is Bihari, and the Keralas have increased the population by only 5% over 10 years, and very soon the Malayalis will become a minority there because the Biharis are coming over. Because for the Biharis and people from the east, Kerala is the new Dubai. A unskilled worker gets 750 rupees, skilled worker gets 1,500 rupees, etc. So the great migration happening all over this country. The south of India is seeing a decline in fertility, static population and aging. The north of India is seeing an increasing population, even the fertility is coming down. And fertility is coming down in all communities. In the last 10 years, from 2003-4 to 2013-15, in the Muslim community, literacy went up by 30%. Fertility came down from 3.56 to 2.56. So this theory that Muslims are going to dominate India is not correct as per data. They may be 10 years behind the rest of the population, and the Jains, our friend Jains, are not producing enough babies. They just have a fertility of 1.2. They could disappear in the next 30 years like Japan. So we're seeing this kind of demographic change all over this country, and we must meet this kind of a demographic change. So we have to create an education system for the future. So all our children are in school. Now if 100 kids come to class 1, by the time they come to class 10, about 75 pass from class 10, 25 drop out. Out of the 75, about 70% pass, 50 go to class 11 and 12, and 35 finish class 12. Out of 35, 26 go to college. That's why we have 3.6 crore people in college. We have 950 universities, 51,000 colleges, 41,000 plus vocational institutions, 51,000 colleges. This is the education system that you have today. So Dr. Sridhar has given you some solutions. What are the yields of this schooling system? First of all, schools start at 6. Now we know that children pick up ability because of the environment starting from the age of 2 and 3. The brain is plastic, the brain develops 75-80% by the time the child is 6, is there in the report. So the child has to get an external stimulus. Now in a competitive society, the middle class and children, middle class and richer class, send their kids to play school. What do the poor do? The poor cannot send their children to school because there is no facility. Send them to an Anganwadi, the substitute the government is doing. Now if you want to create an egalitarian society, every child should have a policy. So you must start from 3, and this commission has recommended that, and that is very, very good news. The children have to get this kind of a stimuli starting from class 3. Then how much education should a child require? All around the world there is a consensus that 12 years of proper schooling is required. That's what is called high school in the United States. because most people should do high school. So now they brought in 12 years. The RTE has only 8 years. So 12 years mandatory education for every child should be given, and that should become a constitutional mandate, and it should be free for everybody. And that I commend them for doing that, because 12 years is required. After 12, they go for higher education. It's up to them, even though we want many people to do the degree. Now, what are the difficulties in the school education? In the school education today, 40% is private. And then most people go to private because they teach English. They want the English language. Why the English language? Because English is becoming the operating language for business, for getting jobs, etc. And all parents believe that knowing English. But English doesn't have to be the medium of instruction. English can be a language. The medium of instruction has to be your mother tongue. My mother tongue is Konkani, so don't force things on me, but that's about the fact. And before you bash me up, I must tell you, warn you, I'm a minority under Article 2930. You know that? So, no minority bashing. But the mother tongue, because the child speaks to the mother tells a language. But sadly today, I see Kannadigas in the airport, they take a small child 2 years, and the child says, Baba black sheep. And the mother says, Baba black sheep. The child says, Baba black sheep. Nothing about all those small songs our mothers used to sing to us in Kannada and Konkani or whatever language. Why don't we teach them in their own mother tongue? Up to class 5, then they can choose. So the language and the medium of instruction is very important, because the medium of instruction should be natural, it should be something, but English should be spoken as a operating language. It can be a language, and then we can do. Now, why is language important? Because content is created in language. What is the mistake we made in our languages? We have not created content in our languages. In France, they teach in French. In Germany, German. China, Chinese. Japan, Japanese. Why is that? Because they translated the world's knowledge into their own language. We are not translated. So when content is less, the only way to get content to the rest of the world is to go to English. So forcing our own people to give up our languages, we need our languages, we have to invest, and we have to translate, so content is available. So language policy has been said, even though some journalists in Tamil Nadu try to blow it up, they're misled, they're trying to play politics. I don't think people in Karnataka should fall into the trap. Please read that, that's good. But the language policy, pedagogy, why should we stuff information? Why should we stuff so many things into them? They address the language pedagogy, the use of technology. Then how do you handle differences in society? Today, there are people who got money want to go to a private school. Why? They feel they teach English and the private school teaches better. But government spends an enormous amount of money on primary education. Karnataka spends maybe 25,000 crores on primary education. There are 3 lakh teachers there. We got enough schools, but the schools are empty. The number of children in Karnataka came down from 12 lakhs to 10 lakhs, but in 2003-04 and right now in 2019, out of which the government school system today is only about 45-50%, and it was 65% earlier 10 years ago. So it's coming down. So we need to buttress government schools, because public spending has to be there for schools. You cannot force them to come, but parents should have a choice. You can go to public schools, you can go to private schools, you can go to any school of your choice, but you must have the choice, and all schools should give similar education. Now the National Education Policy has spoken about people who are left behind. We have communities who are poor, they're left behind. We have people of certain groups and communities which are left behind, or certain religions who are left behind. Now they have come out with policy. What do you do for special cases to bring up every child up to a level where they get access to the same quality of education? Now whether they learn or not is left to them, but access should be the same, and that's what will come, without forcing people to go into the school system. And then I positively love this, because the co-curriculum, curriculum and extracurriculum, all that is gone. So you can be a school graduate with focus on cricket. You can be a singing star. You can be a musician. You can be everything else. You know why? At the time of technology disruption, when technology like AI is disrupting everything, there are 3 kinds of jobs which will be impacted. The first job is where you use the left brain and the right brain. The creative aspect and the logical aspect, both are important. If the creative aspect is not there, you are not problem solving, you don't know what to think, you're not going to succeed in future. Those jobs will remain. The rule-based job which all of us do, sit in office and do some work, follow a rule, they're going to be automated. chatbots, AI is going to come and take away the jobs, and that's in danger. And the lower level job, like a masseur or a hairdresser, will remain, but they don't pay very well. So our children, if they want to succeed, should have the creative ability, should have the analytical ability, the problem-solving attitude, and by having everything in this curriculum, making them specialize in various areas, we are going to create a different society, and that's why we must commend this. Now, what happens in higher education? Dr. Sridhar pointed out everything else. Now, the biggest challenge in higher education is universities don't have autonomy. Why should UGC decide which university will do what course to give? Why should a set of people sitting in Delhi decide? Why should a set of people sitting in Vidhan Sabha decide what a VC is? In our society, the Rajguru had the primacy of place. India is the only society in the world where the knowledge makers are the learned ones were top of the totem pole and the king came second. The person with the bull or the person with the arms was second in the totem pole. When the Rajguru came into the assembly to the king's court in the darbar, the king came down, washed his feet, invited him, made him sit on a throne higher than him. Why? Because we respected knowledge. This is our society. But today we get a system where the vice chancellor has to sit outside the secretary's door. Why? Because secretary gives money. And they call him after some time. And the vice chancellor is chosen on extraneous consideration. We know what happens. The governors and others choose the vice chancellors, and we know how the system works. And the universities don't have autonomy. Whether you're a private university, deemed to be, not deemed to be, whatever university, you don't have autonomy. So they recommend we must give autonomy to universities and let the universities flourish or die based upon what they do. Because the difference between a good institution and a bad institution is management. Why is a school good? Because the school management is good. Why is the school bad? Because the management is bad. It's not whether you're private, public, who owns you and all that. Doesn't matter. Whether you have good management and bad management, and in your system to have good management, you need to have autonomy. And that, I think, is a very interesting thing. And then multidisciplinary focus. Extreme specialization cannot happen. I'm from the technology industry. As head of HR, I have hired more than 200,000 people, 2 lakh people, and trained 250,000 people. Let me tell you the frightening things. The people we hire are engineers. They're techies. They don't have human empathy, human relationship. They get married, 2 people live together, and suddenly there's a fight. The girl or boy says, I'm going to mother's house. He says, okay. I won't come back. Okay. There's no empathy, no relationship. There is no emotion between bonding. We need emotion. We are emotional creatures. Why is that? Because we are not exposed to liberal art. We are not exposed to great literature. We are not exposed to music. We are not exposed to the art. Because these humanize people. Engineering makes you a very logical, analytical person without reason. But you need to have reason. That is only an algorithm. So you need all these things to be creative. Because you can't be sequential. You've got to be a lateral thinker. So creating multidisciplinary universities, creating a place where you can have science, technology and arts is very important, and you can mix and match and create degrees. Today, why are children frustrated in college? Because I can't mix and match. I want a degree in science, in let's say chemistry, with a minor or a major in music, and I want cricket as a subject, and I want to do logic, and I want politics. Can I get the degree? I cannot. But I want it. Why do I want it? I just like it. So you must give the flexibility, because education has to be student-centric. This policy is student-centric and not authority-centric. So I must commend you, sir, for doing all that, and that's important. And then, universities have two primary things, objectives: creation of knowledge and dissemination of knowledge. Now, the committee has recognized every university, every professor can't do research. Some are great teachers, some are great researchers. Great researchers could be lousy teachers. Good teachers can be bad researchers because of an attitude. Now you must let people teach or do research or do a bit of both. But don't force people to say, you must have a PhD, you must do research, everybody should write something. It's not going to happen. So the 3-way classification: research-based teaching institution, teaching-based institution will do research, and then community colleges or degree-giving colleges, a fantastic hierarchy. And in that hierarchy, the policy recommends that a student can join any one of them. You're not compelled to join only here or there. You can join anyone, you can go anywhere, depending upon entrance and depending upon what you do, and there's flexibility. And once you are a community college, degree-giving college, you are not stuck with that. Next, you can improve and become a teaching university. If you put more money, more research, you can become a research. You are not bracketed, you are not force-fitted, you are just classified, you have the ability to go. I think that is fantastic, and that is fantastic. That's great. The next thing is about the research foundation. Research requires public money. You can't do research with fees. Can a private university do research collecting fees from students? You can't do that. So you need public funding. Creating a national research foundation which will give grants to colleges and universities on a competitive basis, on a peer research basis is fantastic. And it all comes because he ran an experiment as a secretary of the Knowledge Commission. He had a small amount of 25 lakh rupees. I remember sitting with him in the Knowledge Commission when he invited all colleges to come. And we used to get some college from a remote place, Bagalkot, I don't know, Bagalkot, some other remote place in Karnataka. They used to come and try some research proposal. And Dr. Sridhar used to tell us, look, they have at least come and written a proposal, give them 2 lakhs. No, don't bother about quality, let them give them 2 lakhs. And I think all of them did something useful because they started thinking. Education is about thinking. We force them to think, we recognize them, and we give them a leg up. So it has to be in a content basis. Right now, research money is given to IITs, only public universities owned by the government, not the private sector. So this discrimination of private, public. Because let's understand one thing. All educational institutions are designed for our children, for our students. Everything is the same. Government is no bigger owner than anybody else. You can't create a caste system where government is the top and the private at the bottom, because the end result is education. I think the research foundation, in fact, I went to the PMO sir this time and said, we want a 5,000 crore annual grant to be given to this foundation, and this 5,000 crores should be non-lapsable, maybe it should be demanded in parliament. 5,000 crores, No, I'll tell you, 5,000 crores per year, because 20,000 is not give. Nirmala doesn't have money, physical deficit. No, so you can ask what you want. Tell them 5,000 crores. And the policy is 20,000 over a period of time, non-lapsable, because you can't spend 5,000 a year. There's no capacity to spend. He will create a corpus, let it be run by academics, not by bureaucrats. And let it be peer review. He's got the mechanism. He's done it in Karnataka in a small way. He can write the paper. I think that is fantastic. And then the most important thing is, what should government do? Now we need a government. We need a parliament where a country governed by the rule of law, and therefore we need young people like Tejasvi to go to parliament and create laws for us, because we have to be a country governed by the rule of law. Now, what should be the role of the government? The most important thing is the role of the government. The government has 3 roles. Policy maker. As a policy maker, you must make policy for the entire country, because the entire country is under the government, center or state. As a policy maker. And the policy should not discriminate against the private sector or any sector or favor the government sector. Policy should be independent, right? And that's important. And national education policy will lead to it. Second, you've got to be the regulator. Now, regulator is the person who looks at whether the policy is being implemented, guidelines are being implemented, the money given by the public or the parliament is properly spent. And the regulator should be light touch regulator, should not interfere with autonomy universities, so the role has to be distinct. And the third, government is the provider of education. Government is like a provider education like a private college, private university. Why should you say, if government has a school where everybody fails is okay, but a private sector, if they have a school, everybody fails is not okay? Everything is the same. If a state university is bad, it is bad. Private university is bad, it is bad. So we have bad, good and very good. Not saying state is okay, private is not okay. So we, as a provider of service, they must be held accountable. They must be held to the same standard. The regulators should ensure that all of them there and they're not the favorite pay. So the separation of power is very critical. All these have been mixed. Dr. Sridhar's committee, Dr. Kassan's committee has separated all that. And then they have recommended special provisions for various things. They recommended the use of technology, recommended everything else. I want to end here by saying the entire architecture and structure is very well thought out. It is very sustainable, it's very flexible, it's student-centric, and it has the role defined for all constituencies, and it has the potential to give freedom. To give freedom to the academics, to give freedom to the universities, the freedom of choice to young people. Because in democracy, there are 2 important things that you must have. You have to have choices, freedom of choices and the freedom of choice. What are the freedom of choices? You can do many things and you're free to do and you have the ability to do, you have access. Second, you must have the freedom to do choice, take the choice. The freedom to do the choice comes because government will fund education. So we need, sir, a national scholarship program where no child will be deprived of higher education for want of means. Nobody in this country, no young person should be deprived of the dream because they can't go to a college. They must be given scholarship, they must be given fees, and that we must do. If that's the way to build a country. We can't build a country of unequals. That may be something that must put in a policy, a funding mechanism for those people below the poverty line. For example, Narendra Modi government has set 10% reservation to 50% for economically challenged. Now we need a scholarship for the minority. They announced 5 crore scholarship, but that must be extended to all people below a income level, so nobody is deprived. It's like Akshay Patra. We say that no child should be deprived of education because of hunger. No child should be deprived of education because of wanted means. And in your constituency, you must make sure that every young person who voted for you, even if they don't vote for you, but in your constituency, they get a scholarship, they can go to college. So I'll end here by complimenting Dr. Sridhar. And let me give you one secret. Entire committee. Let me give you one small secret. Dr. Kasturirangan and Sridhar headed the Knowledge Commission. Many of the recommendations in the debates of that, many of it he has returned, and the same experience of that is now going to the national level. So our own Kannadigas are exported. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Namaskar. Namaskar to the great panelists who are here. It's going to put a huge pressure on me. And I'm not sure I'm going to make any value add from what you've heard for the past 45 minutes to 1 hour, because they are the ones who have literally prepared the policy. I am like any one of you, maybe having an institution of my own and working in the education space, but as it is, I'm going to try my best to make whatever value add I can as a mother, as a student that I've been maybe until about 30 years back, as any one of you, and as an educationist. So I'm going to make my tries, but I'm not too sure. Well, education today is very contextual, as I believe. And some believe it to be what a student needs to learn. We were in that category until now. And some believe what a student desires to learn. Now, in either ways, education has to help an individual find a meaningful place in the society. I'm sure all of us agree to this. Good education should promote knowledge, skill sets, but also, along with it, adaptation of certain values which will ensure that the skill sets are put to the right use for the benefit and betterment of the society. Now, this is exactly what is the new education policy 2019 all about. They have claimed to come with a vision that will touch every citizen's life in India, and a sustainable policy which in the next 10 years will cater to the $10 trillion economy that India will be. I read this article somewhere and I was so attracted to this line because, and I had to tell you this. Our Muktya Upanishads always say, Sa Vidya Ya Vimuktaye, which only means knowledge liberates. And I'm sure there are many mothers here, fathers also, who have their children in schools. Now I'll give you a small instance where my daughter was around me about 2 days back. This example is necessary, it's important, because in this context to ensure that the receive becomes accepted. So as a mother, I had a look at, we were talking about nationalism and we were talking about independence and all of this, and my daughter comes to me and she says, you know Mama, the whole nationalist moment, the nationalism in Indians is because of the Europeans. Now me being me, I was shocked coming from my daughter. Maybe I haven't given a lot of attention in the past 3 months, or what has happened suddenly that she's speaking like this. Then I said, Aru, how can you substantiate what you're speaking, beta? I mean, this is not true. So we forever were culture-based, we are a value-based system, and we always were, had that pride and love about our country. she goes inside, she gives me a history textbook, which is explaining about, first, the French Revolution, the American Revolution, and then comes European Revolution. With that, a small line below, which says, the Indians took cue from the European Revolution, and they fought the battle. The revolution started in India against colonization and with the British, and that's why the independence. This happened in the late 19th century. I couldn't blame her because it was not her fault. Our children are being taught rotten history, and of course, all the way, every subject is 150 years old, as Sir just mentioned. 150 years old. Now this was the part of a mother. Now I'll come back to my role as a teacher. I see there is a lot of disconnect. I've been working in the higher education space well, but it goes back to the primary education because students don't come into higher education. They clear 12 years of their life in education, in primary, in secondary, in higher, and then they come to the higher education, to the universities. Now, I keep asking my students, what stops you from being socially active? What stops you from finding out and understanding what's happening around you? Here, I always see there are great people. We know of, so many of us have idols. We idealize certain people. Now, why do we do that and how did they reach there? It is in magic. They noticed what others sleepwalk by. This is what I believe. And how did they notice? Because they care. And why do they care? Is because they have something called as empathy. Our children that we produce after primary education are like, there's a term, an American term, zombies. They are half humans and half rakshasas. They have no connection with what's around them. Either there is a pressure of studies, they keep studying 12 hours, 16 hours, 99.99%. 98% boy comes to me and says, ma'am, can I get admission in this university, in this college? Can you please try and, talk to the principal? I'm against all this, definitely, I never do that. But what can the child do? They are under tremendous stress until the age of 22 till they get married, and exactly what Sir said happens later on. They don't care about their wife, you do what you want. They don't care about their mothers, their children. Very, very disconnected and disoriented. Now this is what this generation is all about. This is what it is. No empathy, no curiosity. And why? I will blame the education system. In primary education, just for the love of my teaching and speaking to children, I speak to first standard, second standard, all the standards that we have. I also speak to children with special needs. And I have realized some understand theories very quickly by just drawing images. Some sing through it. Some just read it once and they know about it. Some take many months to understand in whichever way you try to explain them. Which brings me to a conclusion as a teacher that one size can never fit all in education. One size never fits all. And the new education policy of 2019 is a breath of fresh air. Trust me, if we want to save our children, we have to accept it, not receive it. As a third person, I can always put pressure also. So I'm going to do that all the way. It is a brave attempt to completely overhaul our primary education system. A brave attempt, I would say, because they have rightly investigated the primary education as the epicenter of falling standards of education in our country. We very greatly boast about our dividends, our demographic dividends, and the policy rightly says in the next 10 years we are going to lose out 10 crore students to illiteracy. 10 crore people, alarming rate, and we cannot allow that to happen. It is primarily because our education system is not a progressive one. There are so many students who join a certain stream and they say, no, this is not possible. These are these are not the subjects I can do. And we see dropouts. I have a university which is in Rayalaseema, and we only cater to backward students. We teach them agriculture, we teach them newer technologies. It is very tough. It is very tough because we cannot weave magic. It is, the new education policy is aligned to the 21st century educational needs, but all the same, it remains consistent of all the tradition and values of our country. How will you have a pride for your country? How will you value your country unless you know what is the past? What is the history of the country? Why are we allergic to the Indian knowledge system? Why are we allergic to the languages? It gives us a deeper understanding of our very origin. India is a place where gods existed. They left behind us Vedic scriptures and treasures and temples. Why cannot we have this in the mainstream education? And right from the childhood, it is very tough to bring back all this in the higher education scenario. Trust me, it is extremely difficult. I am trying it for the past 6 years and it is not giving me the results that I have envisioned. Because the brains are, the mindset is so strongly concretized with what you have taught them until about their 12 years of their life, and that's a long, long time. It is very difficult to unlearn that. Why students, even teachers? Let me come to the crux of the problem now. It is also the teachers. I'm sure, I am a teacher myself. I have done the same rote learning that probably every one of us in this room has done. Because we need marks, and unless we need scores, we can't do what we want to do, isn't it? So I'm sure there is no shame in saying it, and especially when we see a brighter other side where we can jump on any time. Now, the whole problem has been that the students, especially the teachers, do not motivate the students. They are the mentors. My daughter spends 8 hours in her school. We spend 9 hours in the college, in the higher education, minimum of 9 hours. The teachers have to push them into going for outreach programs. Reach out, teach out should be the policy and not classroom teaching. It has to be very experiential, immersive, and that's where we fail. Our teaching in higher education or primary education is not immersive. We don't let the children be. We want to impose. And that's how we bring out these so-called zombies. I was in Washington, D.C. Well, speaking of Ayurveda, yoga, our culture, our tradition. I was in Washington, D.C. last week, and at every supermarket I visited, there was a special section of Ayurveda. They are gearing up for yoga, International Yoga Day, more than any of our institutions would ever do. They are gearing up. They have their hats, their caps, all ready in 6 months in advance. Celebrations as long as 6-7 days for yoga. I'm very happy because of our beloved Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji. Today we have something which we can proudly say is a global phenomenon. It's a global phenomenon. Now coming to the suggestions. In higher education, of course, we had a lot of aspects. Because I work in that space, I have a lot to speak about the higher education. To start with, UGC, AICTE, standardization, uniformity. It's extremely tough to function as an entrepreneur who runs an education. It's very tough because there are too many pros and cons that you need to balance around. The bureaucrats, they have to know everything from gobar gas to education to electricity. Is that even virtually possible? It is not. But they do it. Again, we have a lot of systems coming in for the bureaucracy also. We hope that things change over time. But the whole idea here has been because of uniformity, because of standardization, we are about 100 years behind. There was a bureaucrat in Karnataka who tried to make a reform. I was then in as a vice chancellor of a private university, And I was also called on as one of the 10 top academicians of Karnataka in the Higher Education Council. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed those days, I must say. With 51 other university vice chancellors. I think I was the youngest and I was bullied the most. But no offense meant. The whole idea was to integrate. And the bureaucrat who was then the additional chief secretary of higher education, I would not name him, he's here in this room, but I would not name him because he may not like it. He ensured that every single university, which is a state university, because they wouldn't talk to me, I am from private university, no, private university and state universities, my God, they're all lords. And God alone save you if you are young. So, there was no talking, there was no exchange, there was no nothing. We have a youth icon here. So there was no interaction at all. Once he said, I went very subtly to him and I said, "Sir, there is an issue. You've given me this responsibility, but I don't see things shaping up in the right way." The responsibility was all the state higher education universities of Karnataka and the private universities of Karnataka will make a group of 4 and will ensure that 2 villages are adopted and we transform them into a smart village through educating them, or we could decide what kind of activities we want to take up or initiatives we would like to take up. But the outcome was laid up. There has to be a significant development which has to be recorded and shown to the higher education department. Now, I wouldn't find a partner who will partner with our university because I'm a private university and I was the only one from private university who was representing there in the Higher Education Council. So, then there were 2 state universities who agreed, 1 private university. We did some significant, beautiful work with the school children, and then the tempo built up. We did wonderful programs with the students. We took up schools. We made a depository of videos for the schools. We even gave out LCDs, laptops, from which from which they could air every week one video that we have recorded. It was a huge hit, and this activity was called as Jnana Sangama. Now, the whole idea is with integration, development will happen, progress will happen. Without integration, without inclusivity, it cannot. And I am very, very happy that there is no differentiation of a private, central, state and deemed so-called. Now it's all higher education institution. You are good, you stay, you are not, you will be shut down. These checks and balances and due diligence are going to be extremely crucial in implementing these policies. Now I have some suggestions though. There is no mention of special students with special needs. Karnataka has takes the cake because there are 60 out of 61 children, 1 child is autistic. And I've seen this in my home itself. My sister's daughter, because they didn't have any avenues here, they actually shifted to US bag and baggage. Students are not encouraged to enter the mainstream schools who have special needs. Now, probably this is where I might have missed out the point, but the committee is saying that this is definitely there, and the students, Section 6. Fantastic, even transgenders are included, so there is nothing left. Huge round of applause. I believe that there has to be a gap here when it comes to education. We have started this in a very small way. Of course, before the release of this policy, that after 12th, there will be a gap year. No, not many parents accept this. They don't like that their child is wasting a year in culture studies. But this is a must. If the bureaucrats of India get a 6 months tour of India, because they are civil servants, because they have to serve the nation, why not the teachers? Why not our students? They should also have this kind of a gap break where they learn about our culture, our studies, other than the integration that is there in the mainstream. They have to tour around the centers, they have to tour around our places of worship, our archaeology, our dance forms, our artists. They have to interact with each one of them, and they have to come out with a possible journal possible documentation at the end of the gap year, which should be included in the mainstream studies. This gap is extremely important, is what I feel. Now I will leave it to our youth icon here, who is here and who has started this Sansad Dhvani, which I think is the most progressive thing for a politician to do. I would applaud you for this initiative. And voices of our people have to be heard. Other than that, I would request everybody to accept the policy with the essence and spirit that it has made. Lot of efforts would have gone into the building of the policy, I'm sure. It is highly integrated and it's the need of the day. If we need a progressive India, we have to accept the new education policy 2019 for the sake of our children, for the sake of our people, for the sake of education and for the sake of knowledge itself. Thank you.
ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ವೇದಿಕೆ ಮೇಲೆ ಉಪಸ್ಥಿತರಿರುವಂತಹ ಈ ಎಜುಕೇಷನ್ ಪಾಲಿಸಿಗೆ ಇಂಥ ಒಂದು ಅದ್ಭುತ ರೂಪವನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರುವಂಥ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಎಂ ಕೆ ಶ್ರೀಧರ್ ಅವರೇ, ಇಷ್ಟೊತ್ತು ನಿರರ್ಗಳವಾಗಿ ಒಂದೇ ಒಂದು ಸಣ್ಣ ಚೀಟಿ ಪೇಪರ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಬಳಸದೆ ನಂಬರ್ಸ್ಗಳಿರಬಹುದು, ಪಾಲಿಸಿಯ ಪ್ರಿನ್ಸಿಪಲ್ಗಳಿರಬಹುದು, ಎಲ್ಲದನ್ನು ಕರತಲಾಮಲಕವಾಗಿ ತಿಳಿದಂತೆ ಮಾತನಾಡದಂಥ ಈ ಪಾಲಿಸಿಯಲ್ಲೂ ಬಹಳ ಮನೋಜ್ಞ ಪಾತ್ರವನ್ನು ವಹಿಸಿರುವಂತಹ ಮೋಹನ್ ದಾಸ್ ಪೈ ಅವರೇ, ಒಬ್ಬ ತಾಯಿಯಾಗಿ, ಒಬ್ಬ ಎಜುಕೇಷನಿಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಮತ್ತು ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಯಾಗಿ ಮೂರರ ಸಂಗಮದ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಈ ಪಾಲಿಸಿಯ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಅವರ ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯಗಳನ್ನು ತಿಳಿಸಿದಂಥ, ಇಷ್ಟೊತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮೆಲ್ರಿಗೂ, ನಾನು ಕಾಲೇಜ್ನಲ್ಲಿದ್ದಾಗ ಒಂದು ವರ್ಷ ಗ್ಯಾಪ್ ಇಯರ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಬೇಕು, ಒಂದು ವರ್ಷ ದೇಶ ಸುತ್ತಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಬಹಳ ಆಸೆ ಇತ್ತು. ಅದನ್ನ ಅದ್ವಾನಿ ಅವರ ಜನಚೇತನ ಯಾತ್ರೆಯ ಮೂಲಕ ಹೋಗಿ ಮುಗಿಸಿದೆ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಅದು ಅವಕಾಶ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದರಿಂದ ಅಂತ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಸಲಹೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಂತಹ ರೂಪಾ ವಾಸುದೇವನ್ ಅವರೇ, ಹಾಗೂ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಇಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಅದ್ಭುತವಾಗಿ ಅಚ್ಚುಕಟ್ಟಾಗಿ ನಡೀಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ನನ್ನ ಜೊತೆ ಕೈ ಸೇರಿ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಸಹ ಭಾಗಿತ್ವವನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿ ಇಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಸಹಕರಿಸಿದಂತಹ ನನ್ನ ಗುರುಗಳಾದಂತಹ ರಾಜೇಶ್ ಪದ್ಮಾರ್ ಅವರೇ ಮತ್ತು ಥಿಂಕರ್ಸ್ ಫೋರಮ್ನ ಎಲ್ಲ ತಂಡದವರೇ, all the three eminent panelists have already spoken quite extensively on the intricacies of the policy. But without repetition, without repeating the points that have already been made, I would want to highlight only a few aspects of this policy from the perspective of someone who has just gotten out of college. Though not just, but someone who is fresher than the other three panelists here. But before doing that, today when I was going through the preamble of the education policy draft, there was this historical analogy that came into my mind. Dr. Kasturi Rangan is the chairman of this committee, and Professor MKS Kasturi Rangan himself writes in the preamble, was paraphrasing him, the Bahubali of the entire show. It is our good fortune that a man of his distinction has agreed to come and spend time and launch this platform called Sansad Dhvani. And I must also congratulate and thank all of you, the citizens, the intelligent, enlightened citizenry of Bangalore South, for having attended and participated in a program which discusses policy, which generally is construed to be very obtruse, amorphous and dry, in a jam-packed auditorium like this. It is a testimony to the fact that our democracy is only becoming better. ಕನ್ನಡಿಗರಾಗಿರೋದಕ್ಕೆ ನಮ್ಗೊಂದು ಬಹಳ ಹೆಮ್ಮೆ ಏನು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಸಂವಿಧಾನದ ರಚನೆಯ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಾಬಾ ಸಾಹೇಬ್ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ಚೇರ್ಮನ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಡ್ರಾಫ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಕಮಿಟಿ ಆದಾಗ ನಮ್ಮವರೇ ಕನ್ನಡಿಗರಾಗಿದ್ದಂಥ ಬೆನಗಲ್ ರಾವ್ ಅವರು ಸಂವಿಧಾನದ ಒಂದು ಬಹಳ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಕೆಲಸವನ್ನ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ಇವತ್ತು ಸಂವಿಧಾನದ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲೇ ಈ ದೇಶದ ಒಂದು ಬಹಳ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಕ್ರಾಂತಿ, ಈ ಪಾಲಿಸಿ ಇದೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ MKS ನಂತ ಒಬ್ಬ ಕನ್ನಡಿಗರಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಿರುವಂತದ್ದು ಮತ್ತೆ ಹಿಸ್ಟಾರಿಕಲ್ ಒಂದು ಅವಕಾಶ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದೆ. When I went through the draft education policy, I was thrilled and inspired because there was such immense and intricate principles rooted in the Indian educational context which have been incorporated. Most of you may have read that Anand Kumaraswamy, one of the greatest art and culture critics India ever saw, had this to say about the Indian education system, and I quote him: "A single generation of English education suffices to break the threads of tradition and to create a nondescript and superficial being deprived of all roots, a sort of intellectual pariah who does not belong to either the West or the East, the past or the future. The greatest danger for India is the loss of her spiritual integrity. Of all Indian problems, the educational is the most difficult and most tragic." This is what he had to say. Such a prophetic and pragmatic analysis of the Indian education problem. And I must tell you that after giving a bare perusal, a bare reading to the education policy, because each time I had met Mr. Prakash Javadekar at earlier instances, I was one of the strongest critics, because I was asking him, "Sir, yenu bandila sir, when are you releasing the education policy? It's been 5 years. What are you doing about RT? What are you doing about Article 30? What is the..." And whenever I would meet him, because he was Prabhari for Karnataka's elections, I would always ask him, "Sir, when is the education policy coming out?" But I must tell you that your vote in 2014 has not gone for a waste, because the Prime Minister and his team have ensured that the Indian education system gets a root and branch reform in the draft national education policy. The very first vision statement says this: "The National Education Policy 2019 envisions an India-centered education system that contributes to directly transforming our nation sustainably into an equitable and vibrant knowledge society by providing high-quality education to all." Such a brilliantly drafted vision statement. Ma'am was making the point that most of our education system as on today is Eurocentric, European-centric, American-centric, and most of us have not been educated or cultured in a manner to understand and truly appreciate the cultural genius of this country. And one of the significant aspects that this policy, which Mr. Mohandas Pai made a brief reference to, is the emphasis it gives on educating in the mother tongue. ತಾವೆಲ್ಲರೂ SL ಭೈರಪ್ಪನವರು ಒಂದು 2 ವರ್ಷದ ಹಿಂದೆ ವಿಜಯ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಕನ್ನಡ ಭಾಷೆಯನ್ನು ಹೇಗೆ ಉಳಿಸಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಒಂದು ಬಹಳ 2 ಸೀರೀಸ್ ಆರ್ಟಿಕಲ್ ಬರೆದಿದ್ರು. ಆ ಆರ್ಟಿಕಲ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಭೈರಪ್ಪನವರು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ವಿಜ್ಞಾನದ ಪುಸ್ತಕಗಳು, ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಹೈಯರ್ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಪುಸ್ತಕಗಳು, ಭಾರತದ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಭಾಷೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ವಿಜ್ಞಾನದ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯ ರಚನೆ ಬಹಳ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಪಾತ್ರವನ್ನು ವಹಿಸಬೇಕು, ಮತ್ತು ಭಾರತೀಯ ಭಾಷೆಗಳ ಅನುಭವ ಮತ್ತು ಭಾರತೀಯ ಭಾಷೆಗಳನ್ನು ಕಲಿಯುವಂಥದ್ದನ್ನ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನಲೈಸ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿ ನಮ್ಮ ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಪದ್ಧತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ ಬರೆದಿದೆ. The one important aspect that this policy takes care of is 1ನೇ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ನಿಂದ 8ನೇ ತರಗತಿಯವರೆಗೆ, that's the suggestion that's given, ನಮ್ಮ ಮಾತೃಭಾಷೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅಂತ. ನಾನು ಈ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ನ ಒಬ್ಬ ಬೈ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ನಾನೊಂದು ಮಾತನ್ನ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು ನನ್ನ ಅನುಭವದ ಮೂಲಕ. ನನ್ನ PUC ಯವರೆಗೂ ನಾನು ಕನ್ನಡದ ಒಂದೇ ಒಂದು ನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಪೇಪರ್ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಓದಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಎನಿಟ್ ಬ್ಲೈಟನ್ ನ ಓದಿದ್ದೆ, ರಸ್ಕಿನ್ ಬಾಂಡ್ ನ ಓದಿದ್ದೆ, ಜೆಫ್ರಿ ಆರ್ಚರ್ ನ ಓದಿದ್ದೆ, ಹ್ಯಾರಿ ಪಾಟರ್ ನ ಓದಿದ್ದೆ. And I had assumed that these were the greatest literary pieces ever. Until ಪ್ರತಾಪ್ ಸಿಂಹರ ಒಂದು ಬೆತ್ತಲೆ ಜಗತ್ ಓದಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೆ ಕನ್ನಡ ಓದಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಪ್ರಾರಂಭ ಮಾಡಿ S.N. ಭೈರಪ್ಪನನ್ನ ಓದಿದ ನಂತರ, ಕುವೆಂಪು ಅವರು ವಿವೇಕಾನಂದರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಬರೆದ ನಂತರ, ಅದನ್ನು ಓದಿದ ನಂತರ, ದಾರಾ ಬೇಂದ್ರೆ, ಮಾಸ್ತಿ ಅಯ್ಯಂಗಾರರು, ಸುಮತೀಂದ್ರ ನಾಡಿಗರು ಇವ್ರನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಓದಿದ ಮೇಲೆ ಇದು ಯಾವುದನ್ನು ನಮಗೆ ತಿಳಿಸ್ಲೇ ಇಲ್ವಲ್ಲ, ನಾನು ಎಷ್ಟು ಕಲ್ಚರಲ್ಲಿ ನನ್ನ ಭಾಷೆಯನ್ನು ಕಳ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೆ ಅನ್ನುವಂತ ಅನುಭವ ನನಗೆ. ಮೋಹನ್ ದಾಸ್ ಪೈರ್ ಅವರು ಮಾತನಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಬಹಳ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಉದಾಹರಣೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ನಾವು ಯಾವ ಬಾಬಾ ಬ್ಲಾಕ್ ಶೀಪ್ ಕೇಳ್ತಿರ್ತೀವಿ, ಓದ್ತಿರ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ. ನಾನು 3 ವರ್ಷಗಳ ಹಿಂದೆ ಉತ್ತರ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ಒಂದು ಭಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಕ್ಯಾಂಪೇನ್ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋದಾಗ ಒಂದು ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೆದಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಘಟನೆ ಇದು. ಬರಗಾಲ, ಮಳೆ ಇರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ನಾವು ರೈತರು ಮುಖಂಡರುಗಳು ಯಾರಿದ್ರು ಅವ್ರ ಮನೆ ಜಗಲಿ ಎದುರುಗಡೆ ಕುತ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಮಾತನಾಡ್ತಿದ್ವಿ. ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಓದಂತ ಒಬ್ರು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದವರು ಅವ್ರ ಮಗನ್ ಕರೆದು ನನಗೆ ತೋರಿಸಿದ್ರು. ಸರ್ ನೋಡಿ ಹೆಂಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ. ಉತ್ತರ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು, ಸರ್ ನಾವಿಲ್ಲಿ ಮಳೆ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೊಡೆದಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಇವ್ನು ದಿವಸ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಂದು ಬಯಾಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋ ಪೋಯಮ್ ಯಾವುದು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಜಾನಿ ಜಾನಿ ರೈನ್ ಗೋ ಅವೇ ಲಿಟಲ್ ಜಾನಿ ವಾಂಟ್ಸ್ ಟು ಪ್ಲೇ ಅಂತ ಓದ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ ಇವನು. ನಾವು ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ಗೆ ಹೋದಾಗ ಹುಯ್ಯೋ ಹುಯ್ಯೋ ಮಳೆರಾಯ ಬಾಳೆಯ ತೋಟಕ್ಕೆ ನೀರಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಓದ್ತಿದ್ವಿ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕಲ್ಚರಲ್ಲಿ ಆಮೇಲೆ ಇಂಗ್ಲೆಂಡ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರತಿ ದಿವಸ ಮಳೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ರೈನ್ ಗೋ ಅವೇ ಲಿಟಲ್ ಜಾನಿ ವಾಂಟ್ಸ್ ಟು ಪ್ಲೇ ಅಂತ ಅವರಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ದಿದ್ರು. ಬಟ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಷ್ಟು ವರ್ಷಗಳ ಕಾಲ MKS ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು 170 years ಇದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಅಕ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ವಿ. ಅಂಡ್ ಇಮ್ಯಾಜಿನ್ ದಿ ಲಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ಜೀನಿಯಸ್ ಓವರ್ ದ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ 60-70 years owing to this dysfunctional system. ಅಂಡ್ ಈ ಡ್ರಾಫ್ಟ್ ಪಾಲಿಸಿಯ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾನು ಒಂದಿಷ್ಟು ಟ್ವೀಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೆ. ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಪಾಲಿಸಿಯ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ತಥಾಕಥಿತ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಸ್ಟ್ ಗಳೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂಡ ಬಹಳ they were up in arms that this policy imposes particular languages. ಈ ದೇಶದ ಒಂದು ದುರಂತ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾರ್ಯಾರು ಪಾಲಿಸಿ ಡಿಬೇಟ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಪಾರ್ಟಿಸಿಪೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೋ ಅವರು ಪಾಲಿಸಿಯನ್ನು ಓದೇ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಅವರನ್ನ ಕೋಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಮಾತನಾಡುವಂತ ಮತ್ತಷ್ಟು ತಥಾಕಥಿತ ಬುದ್ಧಿಜೀವಿಗಳು 20 ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಟಿವಿ ಮಾಧ್ಯಮಕ್ಕೆ ಕೊಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರುವಂತಹ ಬೈಟ್ ಅಷ್ಟು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅವರ ಜ್ಞಾನ ಇನ್ನೇನೂ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. I will just read out one sentence from the draft policy. It is important that local languages, including tribal languages, are respected and that excellent textbooks are developed in local languages. And outstanding teachers are deployed to teach in these languages. Narendra Modi ಅವರು he just does not speak sabka saath sabka vikas as a slogan, he practices it in spirit and letter. ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ಸಿದ್ಧಿ ಭಾಷೆ ಇರಬಹುದು, ಕೊಂಕಣಿ ಇರಬಹುದು, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಅ ಮೈನಾರಿಟಿ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ, ತುಳು ಇರಬಹುದು, ಈ ಎಲ್ಲ ಭಾಷೆಗಳಿಗೂ ಆದ್ಯತೆಯನ್ನ ಗೌರವವನ್ನು ಕೊಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನುವಂಥದ್ದು ಈ ಪಾಲಿಸಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವಂಥದ್ದು. The other 3 points that I would want to quickly make, which are the highlights of this policy, is ಇತ್ತೀಚಿನ ದಿನಗಳಲ್ಲಿ after the introduction of the RTE Act, ಮಕ್ಕಳನ್ನ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿಟೆನ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವ್ರು ಓದ್ಲಿ ಬಿಡ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಪಾಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ವಿ. There was ನೀವು ಫೇಲ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳನ್ನ ಅಥವಾ ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಮುಂದಿನ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಬಿಡ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ it was seen to be anti-child policy. ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಔಟ್ಕಮ್ ಅನ್ನ ನೋಡ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವ್ನು ಪಾಸ್ ಆದ್ನೋ ಬಿಟ್ನೋ ಅವ್ನು 8ನೇ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ 10ನೇ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ತನಕ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಿತ್ತು. ಅದರಿಂದ ಏನಾಗ್ತಿತ್ತು, ನೀವು 8ನೇ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ತನಕ ಪಾಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಅವನು 9ನೇ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಗೆ ಹೈಸ್ಕೂಲಿಗೆ 9, 10ಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದಿರೋ ಒಬ್ಬ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಯ ಮೇಷ್ಟ್ರನ್ನ ಹೋಗಿ ಒಂದ್ಸತಿ ನೀವು ಮಾತನಾಡಿಸಿ. ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಅವ್ನು 8ನೇ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ತನಕ ಏನೂ ಓದ್ಕೊಂಡೇ ಬಂದಿರಲ್ಲ, ನಾವು ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ 9ನೇ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ನ ಓದಕ್ಕೆ ಶುರು ಮಾಡಿಸ್ಬೇಕು ಅವನಿಗೆ. ದಿಸ್ ವಾಸ್ ಅ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟಿಕಲ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್. ಫಾರ್ ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ದಿಸ್ ಪಾಲಿಸಿ has taken the bold step to do away with this myopic, ill-thought detention policy and has encouraged students and teachers to adopt to an outcome-based learning mechanism. ನೀನು 8ನೇ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ತನಕ ಬಂದಿದ್ಯಾ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತನಕ ನಿನಗೆ ಎಂಥ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಸಿಗಬೇಕು, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತನಕ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ನಿನಗೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಮಾತ್ರ ನೀನು ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ಯಾ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ. There is a value to the classes, the grades that you go to. The other most important aspect that I feel that has not been brought about in the discussion due to the paucity of time, sir, is the reforms that have been suggested to the examination system. ಒಬ್ಬ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಯಾಗಿ ನನಗೆ I think this is one of the most important and historic changes. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ನಮಗೆ 10ನೇ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಬಂದಾಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಮನೇಲಿ ಕೂರಿಸಿ ಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಸೆಂಟರ್ ಕಳಿಸಿ ಲೈಫ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗೋ ವರ್ಷ ಅಪ್ಪ ನಿಂದು, PUC ಬಂತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಟರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಲೈಫ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದು. PUC ಮತ್ತೆ 10ನೇ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಿರ್ತಿತ್ತು ಏನು ಟರ್ನ್ ಆಗ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ. ಬಟ್ ದಿ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್, the amount of parental pressure, amount of peer pressure was so immense that students would literally break down. ಎಷ್ಟು suicide ಗಳನ್ನು ಓದಿದೀವಿ ನಾವು. ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಪಾಸ್ ಆಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಮಾರ್ಕ್ಸ್ ಬಂತು ಅಂದಾಗಿ, ಅಂಡ್ ಒಂದು ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ 21 ವರ್ಷ 18-19 ವರ್ಷಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದಿರುವಂತ ಒಬ್ಬ ಯುವಕ ಯುವತಿ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಪಾಸ್ ಆಗಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಆತ್ಮಹತ್ಯೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಹ್ಯೂಮನ್ ರಿಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಹಾಳಾಗುವಂತ ದುರಂತ ಮತ್ತೊಂದೇನಿದೆ. ಬಟ್ this report, this draft recognizes the malady in the absolutely clinical fashion. And ಒಂದು ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಸೆನ್ಸಸ್, ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಸೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮಿನೇಷನ್ ಅಂತಂದು ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗೆ ಅವನ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಯ ಜೀವನದಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ಯಾವ ಸೆಮಿಸ್ಟರ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವಾಗ ಅವನು ಎಕ್ಸಾಮಿನೇಷನ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಬಹುದು, ಅವಾಗ ಅವನು ತಯಾರಿದ್ದಾಗ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮಿನೇಷನ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳುವಂತ 3-4 ಹಂತಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮಿನೇಷನ್ ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂತ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಇವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಯೇಷನ್ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ ನ ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. 1 ವರ್ಷ 2 ವರ್ಷ ಟರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವನು ಇಡೀ ಜೀವನಾವಧಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅವನ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿ ಅವಧಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಪರ್ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ ಅದೆಲ್ಲವೂ ಸೇರಿ ಅವನ ಕರಿಕ್ಯುಲಮ್ ನ ಅವನ ಒಂದು ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಸರ್ಟಿಫಿಕೇಟ್ ನ ಡಿಟರ್ಮೈನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಅ ಹಿಸ್ಟಾರಿಕ್ ಚೇಂಜ್. The other important aspect is the importance given to teacher education. And also the decision that the policy explicitly states that teachers and teaching resources will not be used for non-teaching and non-educational purposes. I spot so many of my own teachers here in the auditorium. Sir, on behalf of them I thank you, sir, because ಮಿಡ್ ಡೇ ಮೀಲ್ಸ್ ಕುಕ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಒಂದ್ ಕಡೆ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಸಿದ್ದರಾಮಯ್ಯನವರು ಜಾತಿ ಗಣತಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಮನೆ ಕಳಿಸಿ ಸೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಸೋದಿರ್ಬೋದು, ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿನೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿನೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿಸೋದಿರ್ಬೋದು. ಎಲ್ಲದಕ್ಕೂ ಇರುವಂತ ರಿಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಯಾರು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಖಾಲಿಗೆ ಇರುವಂತ ನಮ್ಮ ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ ಗಳನ್ನು ಕಳಿಸೋರು. And this policy very clearly mandates that teachers and their resources will not be utilized at any cost for non-educational, non-teaching purposes. The other very significant aspect is on higher education. Compared to say China, USA and Germany, the gross enrollment rate of Indian students is abysmally low. It's just around 25 to 26% on 2017-2018. Whereas these countries have close to 86%, 66%, 78% higher education enrollment ratios. The natural fallout and consequence of low enrollment in higher education is less research papers, less patents filed, and less innovation in technology. ಈ ಎರಡನ್ನೂ at the same time this policy tries to address. One, by making higher education more accessible and bringing in structural reforms to the way higher education is dealt with by providing and enabling greater autonomy for educational institutions, which was such a craving need, and also by starting the National Research Foundation. Mohandas Pai sir very rightly mentioned that 20,000 crores may not be available in real finances to provide for the foundation, but this policy makes a very audacious and bold statement that 0.1% of the country's GDP must be given for research purposes. It's a great starting point. ಕೇಳಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಪ್ರಧಾನಿಗಳ ಹತ್ರ let us ask for the moon. So it's a great start. And if you're looking at how the frontier technologies are developing in more high economy countries like Germany, United States and Australia, China, our file ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂತ patents ಗಳು vis-a-vis the number of patents Indian universities are finding, also the quality of research that are being coming out of these universities compared with us, is something that we have to look inwards and see that we need to wake up and we need to pull our socks up. And this policy definitely addresses that. The last aspect that I would just want to, which Pfizer kind of touched upon, which I would want to request Professor Sir to, MKS Sir to add, or rather contribute, and which we will all in due course do, is financing of education. The policy very boldly mentions that 6% of the country's GDP must be dedicated for education. This is something that we had stated even in 1986. But due to financial realities, we are not able to give such big an outlay. And today, the percentage of public expenditure is about 2.7% of the GDP. Arun Shauri had mentioned one of these economic models that we can follow in one of his books on higher education, where he had said that prati varsha ಭಾರತದಿಂದ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಹೋಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂತ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳು ಏನಿದ್ದಾರೆ, they spend millions of dollars. If that money can also be utilized to invest in the Indian public education system, especially higher education system, and also provide for meaningful scholarships to those people who really deserve the scholarships in higher education institutions, then definitely it will be a game changer in the higher education space. This was one thing that I found to be wanting in the policy, which perhaps has to be addressed and added in a more explicit manner. And I'm sure in the coming days the Parliament will definitely, and the standing committees thereof will definitely take measures in that direction. So this is a game-changing policy. This promises access, this makes education affordable, this makes education more holistic, this concentrates on research, this provides for autonomy, this practically ticks all the right boxes. I thank on behalf of all of you, our beloved Prime Minister Narendra Modi, for having steered through and having given this country an education policy that we all so badly needed from the last so many decades. India is truly changing, and this education policy will truly herald the rise of a new, powerful, prosperous, confident, audacious young India. Thank you so much.
Husband, everybody, I took the decision to pull him out from the regular school and put him into the National Institute of Open School, so that it's like flexibility is there.
The fees are so exorbitant these days. Even for the primary nursery education, everybody is paying 1.5 lakh rupees. ಶಿಕ್ಷಣವನ್ನು ಕೊಡಲೇಬೇಕು ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಕಡ್ಡಾಯವಾಗಿ ನಮ್ಮಗಳಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ನೋಟಿಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದೆ.
For teachers who come out of these institutions, whether they are going to be able to handle all of these completely.
And to Mr. Tejasvi Surya,
ensure that all
I thank all of you for having taken out your time on a Saturday evening, brave the city's traffic, have come here and so actively and engagedly participated in this conversation on policy.
Sansad Dhvani, which was an initiative by Bangalore South constituency, Member of Parliament Tejasvi Surya, has just ended.
Hi, I'm Kirtana and I just finished attending the first Sansad Dhvani event. When I was coming down here, I thought it would be like any other political event where I would get bored in the first 10 minutes and I would walk out. But I ended up sitting through the entire program and I'm so happy about this initiative. Not every constituency or not every part of the country gets this opportunity to give or raise your voice and be heard in the parliament. So this definitely is one of the most beautiful initiatives taken by MP of our constituency.
It was a very beautifully organized event where everybody was able to voice their opinion about the education policy. So that's all I want to say. Thank you so much, and I look forward to involve in more and more events that are coming from Sansad Dhvani. Thank you so much.